Everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Under.Business Mindset. I am your host, Nestor Liberato. On Instagram is Next Level OC. Go ahead and check that out. Go ahead and check out the Under.Business Mindset on Instagram as well. Again, guys, this is the podcast where we bring inspiring entrepreneurs, business owners, so they can go ahead and talk about their field. And we also bring specialized people in their selected field so that they can give you a little bit more value in that. Today, we're joined by Jevon. He is your local retirement financial planner, right? And today we're going to learn about a little bit about saving, retirement. We're going to get a lot of valuable stuff from here. Can't wait to you guys to hear it. And then today we got Jevon. Jevon, how you doing, man?
Doing great, Nestor. Thanks for inviting me on.
Of course. And I think this is the first thing that I thought when I had you on, man, because I just want to do a little bit of introduction and thank Jevon for coming in because this is important, guys. I come from a Hispanic family. We don't know anything about, retirement. All we know is that we got to work, save money, and put money in the savings account. So having Javon here is going to be very valuable. You guys will see why. And then Javon, for those that don't know, I know you've been in the industry for about 20 years.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that, man.
Well, again, thank you for having me
Of
on.
course.
You're right. I started when I was about five. So
Five? Damn.
20 years goes by quick. Yeah, I have been in the industry about 20 some odd years, mostly in qualified plans. And
Gotcha.
that's what I do. I sell retirement plans for companies. So I have all kinds of licenses, and I'm a really good person to talk to if you own a business or if you're an employee and you want to know how this thing works, how I can make it work in my life, how I can make it work for my company. However, if you have a grandma that
Yeah.
leaves you $10 million, I'm probably not the best person for you to talk to. I can always direct you to someone who can.
Yes.
But I specialize in retirement plans for companies, for individuals that work in companies, and for owners of companies.
That's perfect, guys. And again, this is going to be a very valuable episode. So I know, Javon, um, we have some questions that we're going to go over, guys. So some of the questions that we're going to talk about today is what is long-term investment on a qualified plan, how to manage market downturns in the long run, what is a rebalance and why is it important, and then should women invest differently than men? That one's going to be very interesting. Stick around for that one. And then obviously I have some questions on the side that we're going to go ahead and ask Javon. But let's start off with the first question, Javon. What is long-term investment on a qualified plan? For those that don't know.
Great question. I like to say that long term investing inside a qualified plan, a 401k, a 403b, a 457, is different than outside of those entities because we have a specific way that we're going to invest. Number one, it's pretty much all long term.
Yeah,
All of my colleagues that work in retirement plans, when we think about investing in a retirement plan, we're thinking of long term.
of course.
Right.
Yeah,
So what does that mean? Long term means that not only are you going to be in the market for a considerable amount of time, let's say at least 5 to 10 years, but you're going to take advantage of market downturns. And that's very interesting because most people they want to take advantage of market upturns,
of course.
right?
Yeah,
However, I like to use the example of if you could buy your house for $50,000, or you could buy that house for $100,000, but you could only sell your house for $200,000.
mm.
Which deal would you rather have?
I
The
mean,
one where you bought the one at
exactly.
$50,000,
Hmm.
right? So that means that you're going to take advantage of that market downturn. It's a lot easier to take advantage of a market downturn than to hope that the market's going to go up and to hope that you put enough money in to capitalize that up, right? So you don't have to take as much risk. You don't have to invest as much money if you can catch that market downturn and take advantage of that.
What would you say for those that are like from 18 years old to like 25? How would you advise the youth like that? Because I know we're looking at long term, right? So let me give you an example. Like for me, I didn't really know. I knew about 401ks and I knew about long term investment. I just never took advantage of it because I wasn't informed about it. So about maybe 3 years ago, I logged into my investment account with the company that I was employed by, and I started seeing all these packages that we have, right?
Mm.
PIMCO,
Hmm.
JP Morgan, all those. And so essentially, I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong. The packages that they have, you can invest in these companies, and those companies invest in other companies, right? Um, and but you're able to kind of control how much of your money you're gonna be putting in,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, you got to put 100% of it. So let's say out of $100, you invest in four different packages. So 25, 25, 25, 25. That equals
Yep.
$100.
Yep.
Um, and once I figured out, okay, and I started looking at the market, I was like, cool, perfect. That 100 turned into 150, then 200, and all that. But how would you get somebody interested in that? Like somebody 18 and 25 years old, thinking long term.
We need help.
Of
That's
course.
just the deal.
Yeah.
We need help. We need help from their parents, from their peer group. I say to lots of my clients on shows similar to this that love looks differently today than it used to. Right? There was a time when if you had a, I remember our first conversation, if you had a one of those hoes that you hoe with,
That you hold with,
that
not
you
what you're
hoe with,
thinking of.
not what you're thinking of. But you could. There was a time when you could pass that hoe down to generation. So you might be out there working the field with the same hoe that your grandfather used or your great grandfather
Yeah.
used, and that's great. But that's not the way the world works for most of us nowadays. Nowadays, we're getting trades, we're getting education.
Yeah.
We're not doing that kind of background agricultural farming work, at least not here locally. So we've got to have that understanding of how do these financial products work, right? How do I take advantage of them? And the only way that you're really going to get that at a young age is if your parents and your peers, unless they tell you about it.
True.
So I would
You're right.
say for those folks that are 18 to 25 years old, get in and then talk to someone like myself who's at your company who can help explain this to you.
Yes.
And I would say to their parents, get your kids involved in finance
Exactly.
at 10, at
At
you know,
least.
as early
As
as
early
you
as you
can,
can.
right?
Exactly.
Because having some familiarity with those terms and going into them and let them know this is the expectation. Once you get your job, Samuel, get into your retirement plan. You may not understand how it works, but you'll get there, right? None of us understood this when we first started it,
Of course.
right? We all had to learn. And don't be afraid of things that don't quite make sense to you
Hmm.
because there are people here that will help you. I'm one
Of
of them.
course.
You are one of them. There are lots of people who can help you along the way, but you've got to get in. Going back to that first question, what's long term investing? Time in the market is more important than the time you get into the market. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Spending time in the market is dramatically more important to your overall well being, your overall asset grab, your the accumulation,
Exactly.
than when you get
Mm.
in the market.
Interesting. Because I know that we have a lot of first generation. I'm a first generation.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's our exactly what Javon was saying. When we have to get in, he's talking to first generation or the parents out there who want to have their children be, financial literate. That's great. But me as a first generation, very important, man. Because I'm pretty sure you out there, like my parents are 60.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any retirement plan at all. All they know is that they got to work. They have a little bit of money saved up. But if they would have took advantage, of long-term investment in a 401k, a Roth IRA, all that, damn, they would have been better off.
They would have. And let's not kid ourselves. Many of the products that we talk about today, they just weren't around, right? If
I
your
got you.
parents are 60, by the time they were in their 20s and they're doing their first job, they didn't have 401ks back there, back then. These things haven't always been around. There was a time when you had your pension, right? And so the company would take care of you. They would average up your three of your highest grossing years and come up with a formula. Sometimes it was 75% of that, and that's what you would get for the rest of your days.
Mm.
So let's be fair to folks. The ERISA, the body of law that governs qualified plans, that didn't really start until the 70s or so, right? So we have to give people a break and we have to meet people where they are. However, that being said, now it's here. And now we need to know what we're going to do because for some folks, putting 10 to 15% of your income away
Exactly.
when you're already 70 years old,
It's tough.
could be tough.
Yeah.
Could be tough.
It's going to be tough.
However, teaching your grandkid, hey, when you get your first job, put 10 to 15% away. If you can't put it in your 401k plan because your company doesn't offer it, put it in the bank. Pay yourself first. Get that concept. Pay yourself first. Get started. And along the way, you will figure it out. Now, I'm just talking about qualified plans,
No, of course, of course.
right?
This is
Right.
not.
I'm not talking about, this is how you invest in the stock market.
Yeah, that's way different.
Yeah.
But see, and I think another thing too is the sacrifice. Like what you were mentioning, putting 10 or 15% of your income, right, towards a saving. At least the way, I grew up, every penny counts, Javon,
Mm-hmm.
with food, all that.
Right.
So, mom and dad kind of couldn't per se. They should have, for sure. But I think now it's a little different with inflation and all that stuff. But I think it does come with sacrifice, guys. You do have to sacrifice yourself a little bit for the long term, like Javon was saying.
Yeah. And I get it. We're making, we're trying to make those bills the best way we can.
Of course.
To say to some folks, look, okay, I want you to drop 10% away, or put 10% away, or 15% away.
Yeah.
They may be thinking, I need to make rent. And you do, right? Or they may be thinking, Jennifer's birthday is coming up. It'd be really nice to get her that bicycle. She's been such a good girl. And I get it. I really do. And I definitely understand you need to go on vacation. You need to do all kinds of things. However, what's most important in my mind, because I talk about qualified plans.
I got you, man.
Right?
Got you.
I'm not talking about your house here. Is set up the mindset of 10 to 15%. And I'll make this promise to you, Nestor. If you find somebody in their early 20s or early 30s, they haven't started their family yet, or they just started their family,
They're in a great position.
and they put that 10 to 15% away, by the time they reach their 40s or their 50s, they'll have what we call options, right? They won't be forced to be on the grind, right? And we can help them do that. I'm not a qualified plan guy. Just with your 401k, or just get that understanding. You'll have options, and you'll be amazed. And you'll be amazed at how you can live your life, and this is not a sacrifice, right? I mean, 10 to 15% when you're making 60K a year. There's still 10% when you're making 20K a year. I'm not saying you have to put X amount of dollars. I'm just saying 10 to 15% of your income. One or two less Starbucks. One or two less In-N-Out burgers.
I got you.
Right? Let's do the hamburger helper
No,
once a week.
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? It's amazing how that stuff adds up.
But I think you're right, man. I think it does start with the mindset first.
Yeah.
I think that's where it starts.
This is what you got to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got understand.
In your culture, and I think we're coming back to that. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. We're in America, and for the most point, for most of our lives, we had that concept of "Go west, young man. You don't like it here, go. You don't like living with your parents, go." I remember, right? We got to go, right? And now we're running into the issues with that. For years, we've heard about what we call the sandwich generation, where we have this idea, okay, I'm leaving my parents' house, I'm out on my own, I'm doing my thing. All of a sudden, I turn 40. Mom's getting to be 60, 65. I love mom, love dad. They're moving in. Junior is 16, 17. He wants to start going to college. Somebody's got to pay for that. I'm now in my prime earning years in my 40s/50s. Where's the money? Where's the money going to come from? Jevon, you're talking about this 10 to 15%. Where's that supposed to come from? I got to take care of my parents.
And
I got to take care of my kids. I'm now in what we call the sandwich generation. How am I supposed to save for retirement?
Damn. I didn't even think about that.
And my only advice is don't get there. Do not get there. Start early with that 10 to 15. Run your life so that 10 to 15% goes in. Pay yourself first so you can break that cycle, and teach your kids so they can break that cycle, and make sure that you're not going to be dependent upon your kids, and then on and on and on and on. Let's break the cycle right now,
Yes.
and let's get financially independent and educated. And I'm not saying we have to get educated to the point where we understand the difference between I don't know, a horrible financial term that we don't want to talk about, right?
Let's not talk
We
about
don't need to talk about
it. I
that.
got you.
And something not. I mean, educated as in, okay, this is how I'm going to set up my portfolio.
Hmm.
This is my risk tolerance, and this is how we're going to go forward. For just this,
Yeah.
we haven't gotten to grandma giving me some money.
Hmm.
We're just talking about this benefit that you have at work or this long term planning thing. We got some short term planning, we got some mid
Yes.
term planning, but for our long term planning thing, let's set that up, right?
Yes.
Any financial advisor can help you with that. Your work financial advisor can help you with that. I can, you can. There's so many of us because it's simple. We're not talking a complicated thing, and we're talking stuff that people do every day, right?
I love what you said. Let's start now. Break that break that generational mindset.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then, Javon, I want to jump into the second question, which is how to manage a market downturn in the long run. Talk
Okay.
a little bit about that.
I love that question.
Let's
Love
do
that
it. Let's
question.
do it.
Okay. So, in my opinion,
Hmm.
because I deal with qualified plans,
Hmm.
market downturns happen.
Of course.
We don't know when they're going to happen.
Yep.
Anybody that tells you when,
They're full of themselves.
right? Because we don't know.
'Cause
We don't
exactly.
know, right? We don't know when they're going to happen. We don't know how long they're going to last, and we don't know how deep they're going to go.
True.
I mean, because we live in a dynamic economy,
Hmm.
and it's only becoming more dynamic.
Hmm.
Okay, so in that long-term investing space, how do you make money? How do you safeguard yourself? My number one tool is understanding and the risk tolerance questionnaire,
I love that.
right?
The risk tolerance.
Got to
Hmm.
do that.
Yep.
So let's talk about the understanding thing first.
Yes.
Okay, we understand if we're doing long-term investing that we want to buy low
Of
and
course.
sell high.
Yes.
We like buy low, sell high.
Yes.
How am I going to buy low if the market don't go down? I only got $50 a month I'm sticking in there. If the market keeps going up, I'm buying less and buying less and buying less. My stuff is going up in value,
Hmm.
but I'm buying less and buying less. Let's go back to that house analogy. You want to buy your house at 100,000, or you want to buy your house at 50,000?
Of course, Javon, 50.
Right? Right? So, when the market goes down, that's an opportunity to buy low. It's not a reason to go, what am I going to do? I'm losing money. No, stop that. I'm buying low. This is the understanding I was talking about. Okay, so how do I get ready?
Yeah.
Don't let the market jack you. Don't respond to the market,
Hmm.
right? Let's run your financial health based on what's going on in your life
At that current situation.
at that time.
At that
right?
time. Exactly.
So, like you so eloquently just suggested, take that risk questionnaire. Is that risk questionnaire changing because the market changed? If it is, maybe you're a little too aggressive.
Hmm.
Are you going to make as much money as someone who was not as aggressive as you are? Maybe.
Maybe.
But are you going to sleep at night? Are you going to beat your wife up or do horrible things because you're panicking because of the market? Maybe not. Not if you're a little less conservative and you can say, yeah, I'm okay. Because Jevon said, I can buy low. Jevon said, if I can buy low and wait till that market comes back, I'm going to profit. Buy low, sell high. So the first thing we want to do is make sure we get that risk tolerance. The second thing is let's get that understanding. I get to buy low and sell high. I'm 50. I'm not ready to sell. Okay, I'll buy low. The market tanks. I'm 55. Still working. Okay, I'm 45.
Mm.
Still working. I'm buying low. I'm buying low. I'm buying low. When do I get to sell? Ultimately, when I retire. So you can imagine our conversation about buy low, sell high looks dramatically different to someone who is 65 than it does for someone who's 55 or 45 or God bless 25.
Do you suggest people when their money's in the market to be invested in looking at that stuff, like reading into the market, and or just leave it there, talk to their advisors like every 3 to 5 years? What would you suggest for that?
Most of my colleagues say to their investors,
Hmm.
their clients, most of my colleagues say, just put it in and don't look at it. But your subscribers, your clients, the people we're talking to now, they're a little bit more savvy than that, right? They're a little bit more savvy than the regular person because they're listening to you talk about all kinds of interesting things. And we've got a little bit of time right now to talk about that understanding. So let's get the understanding. The first one is I want to buy low and sell high.
Hmm.
What does that mean? That means when the market tanks, I'm buying low,
Exactly.
right? So am I going to say don't look at the portfolio? No, I'm going to say have the understanding of what is actually going on here and how your life is being affected. The market tanks. Did you lose money? Did something happen? No. Just your 401k portfolio went down. All right? Put some money in. You're buying low.
I just thought about this question. I don't know how much intel that you can give me. There's so many investment opportunities out there, right? Let me give you an example. Crypto's coming up already.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then with real estate, right? Then you
Mm-hmm.
have real estate. So you have all these investment opportunities. I know the younger generation is looking to make a quick buck. They don't have that time to be long term investing. What would you say to those that are like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and risk it in real estate instead of going to you and doing it that way? What would you say to
Just see how it works out.
that?
Right? I mean,
No, but I think that's the beautiful thing, right? You
right?
have options.
Sure. Yeah.
What have you seen? Like, because I read an article out there that there's, I think in 2023 there was like I don't know how many millionaires that became millionaires in
Mm-hmm.
2023 through real estate. Some of it is crypto, yeah, but mostly real estate. Like, I'm interested to hear your input on that. Like, what have you seen, you being in the field for 20 years plus, for those that invest in real estate compared to actually go to you and use that? What would you say?
Can I cheat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
So, because I deal in qualified plans,
Hmm.
I have a particular optic with regard to the way that I view the market.
I got you.
And that is how am I going to enable the folks that I work with to be successful in a retirement plan?
Mm,
Okay. So, that bodes a couple of situations.
I got you.
One is we're talking about long term investing inside an employee benefit. Another is I'm talking about investments outside that may
Mm,
be long term or not,
yes.
right?
Hmm.
And then another one is I'm talking about stuff that just I do, funky stuff like crypto and really cool things that I want to get involved with.
Yeah.
All right, so how, as a person, am I supposed to navigate all of those? Right? How am I supposed to figure out what's best for me as the
Hmm.
individual?
Yes.
All right, well, I would say if your employer is going to give you the opportunity to invest in a qualified plan, take it. You have an advisor, you have someone who can help you there, and you can, and you're paying for it.
Yeah.
So call them up, call them on the phone, tell them you want to talk to them, and nail them down to a time and opportunity. And if you need to call those folks once a week, do it until you feel comfortable. Right. The other thing I'm going to say, I'm just sort of going to interject this in, is start an emergency fund. Figure out what 6 months, 9 months is, right,
Yeah.
with regard to bills, and start saving that away or start putting that away. If that takes you 5 years to complete, that's fine. Just start. Okay, so that's the one. If you have the opportunity to long term invest in a company as a benefit, take advantage of it. And then next thing, start that emergency fund. Okay, now we're outside our 401k plan.
Yes.
We still want to be a long term investor.
Hmm.
We're still talking about long term. What are we going to do? Should you do real estate? Maybe. Do you want to be a landlord? If you're one of those kinds of people who likes the idea of getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, running over to Ms. Mabel's apartment and fixing her toilet real quick and then heading off to work, or coming over to my house and putting that weather stripping on the door, on my little apartment or something like that. If you don't mind that, if that's cool, do the real estate thing.
Yeah.
I, no, I'm not that guy.
I got you, man.
Not that guy.
But it
So
you
which
do
one
have
should
to.
you do?
Yeah.
Should you do real estate?
I got you.
Yes.
Mm.
Should you do crypto? Yes. Should you do long-term things? Yes. Is there anything that you should not do? What do you like? What can you see yourself doing? Right? The investment that keeps you up at night is not a good investment. So if that investment keeps you up at night because you can't take care of your family because you're too busy running, right? I wouldn't do it.
I know we talked about it a little bit when I said about what would you say to those that are 18 to 25, right? Now, what would you say to a person like me who's 31, right? That wants to invest for sure. I'll be able to put that. Is it too late for me? Do I still reap the benefits if I start now? Or is it too late for me?
It's never too late. Get in. Get in now. Get in yesterday.
You heard it. Get in yesterday, guys.
Get in yesterday.
I'm gonna steal that, man.
No,
I love that, man.
It's not too late.
Mm-hmm.
If I could have got you in your 20s, woohoo! I couldn't get everybody then.
Yeah.
So, like I said before, the time you spend in the market is dramatically more important than particular instant that you get in, right? So we're talking long-term investing.
Exactly.
I mean, you're a pretty young-looking guy, so I can imagine you're theoretically going to be in the market for the next 40 years, maybe even longer, right? Because you're going to be saving money, and you've got insurance programs. You got a lot of stuff going on.
Yep.
That's a long time.
That is a long time.
Right?
Yeah.
So don't think that you don't have time. You got plenty of time. Just get in. Now, if I come back here next year
And you're
haven't
still not
got
in, then we have a problem.
we're gonna talk.
Freaking guy. Now, Jevon, this is a question that I know we're talking about long term, right? So, what strategy would you suggest for people that, especially when there's inflation, right? What is the strategy that you recommend during inflation?
Everything in the market is, and I would say almost in life, it's a two-way sword, right? And most things are not the way they look on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
So most of us like the idea of the value of things that we have, that we own, going up.
Of course.
We like that.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit older than you. So I can remember 10-cent stamps, right? Where you could put a stamp on an envelope, mail that puppy for 10 cents. It would go to Alaska from Texas.
It will take a while, but it'll get
there. Right?
Exactly.
Now, I can't mail a letter for less than 20 cents.
Yeah.
Right? Inflation. Stuff
Exactly.
goes up. Okay, so most times people talk to me about inflation. They want everybody else's costs to stay down, but they want their costs to go up.
Yeah.
All that to say is inflation's here. We're not going to get rid of it.
Of course not.
We got to do what we got to do.
Exactly.
Right? So if we were on what we call the decumulation stage, that is, you'd save money, and you've gotten to the point where, okay, now you want to start living on these monies, right? If we were in that stage, then I'd say you probably want to take enough risk so that you can actually cover inflation. Right? You can actually, you're going to take enough risk so that your pot of money is going to grow, and you can still take some money out of it. That's the rule of thumb. How much is inflation going to be? I don't know. We've been very fortunate before the last administration, right? Inflation was nil for a long time, and we got used to that. I'm going to tell you right here and now, I think those days are gone.
Yes, I agree.
Right? I mean, so
We're in a better position now for sure.
In a way. So what are we going to do? We got to get in, right? We got to get in the market, and we got to have the right mix of investments that's appropriate for us. Yep, inflation's going to be there. Yep, it's going to eat away at our savings. Yes, that's going to suck. Can I say that on?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Yes, it's going to suck.
It's going to suck, man.
It's gonna suck. But you got to do it. It's just like playing baseball. You got to start at home plate. You don't get to start on second base, right? That is the deal. That is part of the nature of the game.
I got you. Javon, how does somebody calculate how much they would need in the retirement? Is there a way to calculate that? Because I try to think about it, right? But it's like the market is going to be different, obviously, in 20 or
Yeah.
30 years. So
Yeah.
how does somebody calculate that?
Yeah.
How much they would need for the retirement?
Yeah. That's a horrible question.
Come on,
Man,
man.
I mean, I can't even believe you asked me that, right? I mean, here we are, just hanging out, two guys, and you want to ask me how they're supposed to calculate stuff.
Come on, Javon. You got the answers, man. You got the answers.
The truth is, there are tools all over the internet, and if you happen to work for someone who has employee benefits, there's a tool there where you can put in the amount that you have here, the amount that you make, rather, the amount that you've saved, credit card debt, woo, woo, woo.
I get you.
And
Where you
it
have to
comes
input all these
all this
numbers.
stuff, right? And
I
it
got
comes
you.
up with
Okay.
something based on certain parameters, right? I would say at 30, whoo, it's tough.
Yes.
It's tough.
Yeah.
At 25, it's even tougher because a whole lot's going to happen
Mm-hmm.
by the time they reach 60. Yeah, and I tell you, man, by the time I have no idea what the world's going to look like at 60
Yeah.
for you. I can tell you this. Your world is going to look dramatically better if you save 10 to 15% now
Now.
until you get there.
You need to make merch, man, that says "Get in now." That's what you need, man. You need merch. But this actually kind of crosses with the next question, man. Is rebalancing, right?
Yes.
Somebody who's already in the market, right? For somebody that's already been in the market, let's say 10 years, right? When is it an appropriate time to rebalance?
Okay,
Is it every
great.
3 years, 5 years, every 10 years?
Thank you for bringing that up. I love this. Okay, so definition of a long-term investor. We're going to be in the market for quite some time.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
We're going to take advantage of market downturns. We're going to reevaluate and rebalance
Yes.
on a regular basis, right? That's the definition of a long-term investor. Rebalance is like taking the trash out, man. It is just one of the eighth wonders of the world. Especially if you count compound interest.
Yes.
Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you want to make me happy, right,
As
not
we
too
do.
many people do. If you wanna
This
make
guy.
me- if you want to
Freaking
make
guy.
me happy,
Yeah.
you should rebalance
Mhm.
inside your qualified plan
Yes.
quarterly.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quarterly. Because it's that risk tolerance that's
Yeah.
going to get you, right? You want to make sure that your risk is appropriate for you,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy. I don't know of a mutual fund company out there where you can't go online, choose your asset allocation, the way you're going to put money into the market,
Exactly.
hit the rebalance button.
Exactly. And I was just gonna
Hit the
say that. Yes.
Yeah, hit the button.
Yeah, because in my mind, when you said rebalance, right, I thought you were gonna come up with like, oh no, you got to go to your advisor and kind of talk to them and figure out. But it's like, no, like if you guys have a retirement plan currently with your current employer, right, a qualified plan, log into it. Trust me, log into it. Look at exactly what your company, invests on, and you can choose. And you go to your asset allocation, right, the percentage, choose whichever one for now, right, and then quarterly at the end of the quarter, rebalance. That's it.
Mhm. And you can set it up so that your portfolio will be rebalanced by your company every quarter,
Yeah,
which is great. Which is great.
that's
I think that's
beautiful.
awesome.
See, it's just I'm upset right now, Javon, because I'm 30, man. Like they should have been teaching this, like when we were young, man. This is the type of stuff that we needed to learn when we were in school. You know what I mean? How to write a check, compound interest,
Right.
homes. What is a APR?
Yep.
Like, how does that work? Credit cards. Like, I was talking to one of your friends, Miss Natalie,
Mm.
and I asked her the same question. Like, I'm gonna ask you the same thing. Like, why do you think they don't teach us this in school? Why do you think, Javon?
I don't know.
Hmm.
It is so vital for people to survive. I'd have to punt and see what Natalie said.
Well, I mean, what she said was Yeah, because they don't want successful entrepreneurs, business owners. Because if, I mean, it makes sense. I understand why she said that. Because let's just assume being successful is easy, right? They give you the plan. You have a plan of how to be successful, and everybody follows it. There's not gonna be a lot of worker bees. You have a lot of CEOs. You have a lot of presidents. You have a lot of those people, and you don't have worker bees. So we need people to work. And
Mm-hmm.
how do you get people to work? Take a little bit of information out where they don't get to the top, which makes sense. I understand it sounds messed up, but that's how it is. So, but I I think it kind of makes sense. I get it, right? We do need working class people.
Yep.
We do need like the yes sirs, the yes ma'ams. It just sucks, man. Cause
Well, let me stop you right there.
please,
Um, all true, I believe. And we can go into a different type of show and talk about those philosophical things that are existing,
I got
right?
you.
But just because you're a working class person doesn't mean you can't be successful,
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
I
I
understand.
mean, what's more important is why haven't we taught our children the mindset of what love really looks like? Why are we not giving them that? Because if we need worker bees, not everybody was designed to work behind a computer and send messages and things like that. Some people are really good working with their hands.
Mm-hmm.
They deserve to be successful,
Yes.
right? And some people are really good at just getting the job done, right? I mean, they don't want to worry about employees and lateness, and all they want to do is get the job done. Kind of like maybe even your father, certainly like my father. I got a family to feed.
Yep.
I got to get some stuff done. I want to put some clothes on my kid's back, some food on the plate. I want to make sure this person is healthy, and that's success for me. Okay. So, in a way, our society taught our fathers, our moms, this is how you're successful. You
Mm.
raise your family, you take care of the people that are depending upon you. You make sure they have a good step, right? Then we have that other part that they weren't, the society wasn't so good at teaching our folks. Okay, so we didn't hit it, our society didn't hit it out of the park on all cylinders. But now we have you and me and Natalie. And we can get in there. We can get in the trenches. And we can help people pull themselves up. We can help people be successful, even at a wage rate that you wouldn't think they're going to be necessarily successful. You see what I mean?
But I think it all comes back to like the mindset that you were talking about as well.
Yeah.
You need to have the mindset. It all starts with the mindset.
Yep.
Obviously, you can keep working for years because you don't know how. Like I've been in so many industries where I've seen like older gentlemen, like my mom's age, my dad's age, still in the same position,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I would ask them like, why? They would just tell me the same thing. Like they're either A, scared, because language barriers and all that stuff, or B, it would be, I'm just comfortable. Like this is enough where my family is comfortable. Like I could still put food on the table. Their vision of success, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, damn, man. Like I know you could do so much,
Right.
but it just ah.
Well, you and I know about at least in my family, those older ladies that had that jar of coins
Oh
on
yeah,
them, right?
yeah.
Right. And then, you know, as we grow up with these folks, we find that they have 97 of those little jars full of coins
Mm-hmm.
in strange places in the basement and around the house,
Yes.
right? You're
Yeah.
like, what's up with that?
Mm-hmm.
Savers, right?
Yes.
Savers. So if I could get to parents today and I could say to them, after all this stuff that I talk about being a long term investor and da 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 da, that's a technical term, da 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 da
If you guys didn't know.
da. Give me a nation of savers,
Mm.
right? You save, get into that habit of saving. Ditch teach saving. By the time they get their first job, you and I can help them,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about saving. Maybe they don't know about um, Maybe they don't know about long-term investing. Maybe they don't know about insurance. They don't know the difference between term and whole life. They
Yeah.
don't understand the concept of borrowing versus taking that money out.
But that's what
Right?
we're here.
That's why we're here.
I love that.
But if we can get some saving, then
No, yeah, of course. Javon, what has been like a common mistake that you see people do when it comes to retirement planning, and how can they avoid that? Right? Like, what is a mistake that you see often?
well, the one that really pains me is the one that I hear a lot of people say, and that is, "I'll worry about retirement when I get there."
Yes. Yeah, exactly. No, it's the same thing in my field. Like with the insurance, is like, I don't really need it right now. I'm young.
Yeah.
I understand.
And I say to them, if you think about it now, you won't have to worry about it later.
Exactly.
Right?
Ah, that's why, at least for me, I love talking to people like yourself, man, in their fields. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, Javon. It's tough to kind of convince people my age, to kind of start thinking about their future as well. You know what I mean? Again, I'm 31, guys. Like, it's people my age are still having fun. They still feel like their 20s
Yep.
and all that.
Yep.
Like, they're just comfortable. But if they can just stop for a minute, kind of think how their future or how they want their future to be, just make the little changes here and there, it would definitely be worth it at the end.
I think you're right. It's big. We are talking about a society where we live for today and we got to make things happen now.
Exactly.
And it is today because we may not get till tomorrow. I mean that's a reality, right? Um, and that's why I say love looks different now than it did back in the day
Mm.
because now we have the opportunity to say, okay, as a saving
Yep.
country, as a
Hmm.
savings country,
Yep.
right? Life can look really different for those of us who have saved versus those who haven't. You know, I don't even know what to say after that. It is what it is.
I mean, yeah, I hate that saying, but it is what it is, man. And then, Javon, what would you say? Like, for example, my parents, right? They're already at 60 years old. My parents always, especially my dad, he's always like, I'm going to retire soon. He's thinking about retiring like maybe in 3 to 4 years. And then he starts thinking about his Social Security, right? I don't know the amount that you've seen. I don't know how it affects the monthly income that you'll be getting at when Social Security kicks in. But like, what would you say to those folks that are looking forward to retirement just because they're gonna be getting the Social Security, right? How can they use that money? Is it late for them to invest, or what would you suggest for that? For my dad, for example, he's gonna be 64. He's gonna be getting Social Security for I don't know how long. How can he, extend those benefits, or what would you say to him? How can you help us out with that? I know, I know.
Well, the first thing I would do is suggest you need to get a plan, which means you need to get information. First thing you got to do to develop that plan is get information, and that is call Social Security Association up, tell them what's my check going to be, when does it start?
You can do that.
Yeah,
What?
call them up, go online, establish an account, SSA.gov,
Gov?
I
Yeah.
believe, and they'll talk to you. They
No
want to talk to you.
way. I didn't know that.
Yes, 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 yes. Or go down to the office, make an appointment.
That yeah.
Yeah,
But damn.
yeah. That's number one.
Yeah. Be
And
informed.
then number two, let's take a look at those assets. Are you renting? Do you have a house? One of the things that I talk about on my podcast is if you can, let's make this a family decision. Why put your father through this alone? Right? Don't do that. Sit down as a family and say, okay, this is how we're going to run this thing so that we can all be prosperous. And then all of you are going to figure out how your family is going to matriculate, manipulate, get through this wealth building thing.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
My pops is very traditional, stubborn. Um, all he thinks in his mind is, I'm just gonna collect that money and leave the country. You know what I mean?
You know, that ain't that. That's not a
I know, I
bad
know, I know,
thing.
I know, I know for sure.
There's a
I
lot of
understand.
yeah, and if the family decides, you know, Dad,
Interesting.
you're gonna get $16, $100 a month. Move to Ecuador at $500 a month. You got a grand. The healthcare is good. I'll come visit you.
That's not a bad idea. But I love what you said that it's a family thing,
It's a family thing.
and not a lot of us. You know what? I'm just gonna in my family, well, my culture. I could be wrong. It depends on the family. I've noticed that you know people around my 20s, they want to leave the house,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Start their own thing, start
Mm-hmm.
their own family, which is cool. It's great. You're supposed to do that, right? In my family, like it's better to stick together, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Mom, pops is still there. If we have grandma would stay there. We'll figure it out. Everybody pays.
Yep.
Everybody pays, and right. If we have a car, we'll share it. If we need to buy another one, we'll buy another one. Like people are just so adamant to leave the home, and it's like, no, bro, try to stay with your family as long as you can. Like it's helpful, and it just makes the family unit a little bit more stronger. Because in my family, we talk about everything, man. We have family meetings, believe it or not. When something important, any decision that we have to make, like are we gonna move or anything like that, me and my sisters will go and be like, hey, we need to talk. All right, cool, perfect. What day? This day. Perfect. We get everybody together. Hey, this is what we're thinking. What does everybody think? All right, cool. We'll give our input and then we make a decision from there, man. But I love what you said about it is a family thing. And we do got to think about our parents. Because, again, maybe your parents are almost the same age as mine, almost our retirement age,
Mm-hmm.
60 to 65.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that what you said because we do got to start thinking about is it more, would it be better for mom and dad to stay with us?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it better for mom and dad to kind of leave the country and, they can come visit whenever they want?
Yeah.
And I
You
think,
have to figure that out, right? I mean that, and those are. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know those are tough. You can call James Thomas up right now. Say, when's the last time you talked to Jevon? He'd be like, look, boy, he ain't called me in I don't know how long, right? So it is not from it's come it's love from a place of pain, right?
yeah,
Um, but the reality of the situation is that for those of us who are coming from folks who got it done with regard to putting the food on the
yeah,
table and taking and the clothes on the back, right? Who didn't weren't able to maybe have the mindset of and someone to teach them about the savings. For those folks, and there's a lot of folks out there. I mean, I'm thinking of divorced spouses who had to take care of the kids by themselves. They didn't have two spouses,
mm,
right? I mean, I was very, very fortunate. I always had a mom and a dad, right? And I still have a great mom and dad. Not everybody can say that,
yeah,
right? So um, it is not without pain that I don't come to you, but you're absolutely right. Make it a family decision because eventually that family decision is going to be forced on you.
that's
You're
especially if you're the
going to
oldest.
have to make it.
Yeah,
I mean, in the form of what are we going to do? We're
mm,
in that sandwich generation.
yeah,
I'm paying for mom and dad. Got to do that. I'm paying for Junior to go to school and what have you. I got to do
yeah.
that.
You messed me up with that, man. Like,
We're in that sandwich.
yeah,
What are we going to do?
God, yeah,
We can, I'm not saying that we need to break that cycle so that mommy and dad can go off into the sunshine. What I'm saying is that as a family, you need to decide what does mom and dad and Junior and me look like in this mix. Now, you and I both know we've got family members that are taking a look at mom's wedding band. And
mm.
we'll be looking at when that lady dies. We have those conversations, right?
You have to have those
Right?
conversations.
When that lady dies, then I'm going to get the house. Or when that lady dies, I'm gonna take care of it and I'm going to get this. Da, da, da. I'm saying let's talk. And use the matriarch or the patriarch. You got to do it. You got to bring them all together. And you, as that matriarch or that patriarch, you got to say, how are we as a family going to pass this wealth down, establish wealth, keep people happy? And God bless you if you can do it when those kids are small, so that every couple of years you do this. We're used to doing this. This family's moving as a unit, right? This family's taking care of business. I know it's tough. I really do, because you got to work and you got to go to church and you got to give to this and you got to give to that, and everybody wants a piece. But if you want to break that cycle, use all your resources.
Like Jevon, we live in one of the greatest countries in the world. We have so much opportunity. I don't think these people know. I don't think you guys understand like how lucky you guys are to live in this country. I just barely realized it. Like after learning about investments, after learning about crypto, after learning, I'm like, damn, like there's so many opportunity here to live a comfortable life, provide for your children, provide for your mom and dad. Like it's just crazy. It blows my mind. And how are people not interested in this? That's what blows my mind, Javon. It's like, what? You think it sounds boring? Is this boring? Like, bro, this is future. This is we're looking after our family's future, and I don't think people understand. And it's
Well
great.
said. I'm right there with you. Right there with you. You are spot on. You're
It's just,
spot on.
god
We,
damn
we
it.
have to do this kind of thing. And it's tough. You know, to be honest with you, I left home at 17. I'm like, I got to
Yeah,
get
you
going,
mentioned that. Yeah.
right? And my sisters, they left home, to get married,
I mean, yeah,
right?
yeah. Of course,
Mhm.
that makes sense.
So, I mean, I had one sister, she left early, did a bunch of stuff. But
We're not gonna, we're not gonna talk about
yeah,
that,
let's talk
sis.
about that. That's fine. That's fine. And I know. I mean, she's beautiful. She's a beautiful daughter. One of my two of my favorite people in the world are my nieces. Favorite people in the world. But we need to have that meeting,
Yeah,
right? We need that meeting where the matriarch and the patriarch, on a regular basis, they sit down and they talk about how they're going to move that family forward. Wealthy people do that,
of course they do.
right?
Of course they do.
Wealthy people do that. How come us folks who aren't wealthy, how come
That's
we
what I'm
can't do
saying.
it, right?
That's what I'm
Right? Let's
saying,
do
man.
it like the rich folk do.
Exactly,
They do
man.
it. Everybody does it. Don't nobody's out there going, I'm just out here on my own.
Yeah,
Well, a very small amount of people are like that.
man. Well, this actually transitions to the last question that we have, man, which is should women invest differently than men? Now, this question is very interesting to me because I thought about my sisters. Both of my sisters, they win pretty good money. They don't have to worry about major bills like cars and all that. They can just borrow my dad's or mine. They don't have to worry about that. I tell my sisters all the time, I'm like, what are you doing with your money?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you putting it?
Mm-hmm.
It's just in my checkings. Why? Have you looked at crypto? Have you looked at, qualified plans to your employer? Like, don't you want to have a decent
Right.
life when you retire?
Right.
Nah, I'm okay. I'm like, what the hell, man? Yeah, so why is it different? I always wonder like why women don't look at but women don't look at investment like the same way men look at investment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, Javon? Or what do you think?
Well, I tell you really like to push the element.
I'm just saying,
Element
man.
of those different shows. Yeah. I think it's like so many things in life is complicated and simple,
Hmm.
right?
I
Um,
see that.
the complicated thing is we have a lot of stuff going on in our society here, right? I mean, a lot of people with different needs, a lot of people
Yes.
with different outlooks on life, and women are just as full of that kind of mixture in their life as men are. So when it comes to people that have different pulls on their life, women have just as many pulls as men. It's true. I mean, they're just different,
Yeah.
right?
But I wonder what.
I'm not quite finished.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The the other part of that, the simple part is that we as men have set it up so that the way we think of our society working,
Mm-hmm.
we're taking that responsibility
Mm-hmm.
away from women. We've done that for a long time, right? Now the world is changing. Whether you
Yes.
like it or not, I'm not even going to get into that. You know how I
It's for
feel
the
about
next
that,
episode,
right?
guys. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
But the world is changing,
Yeah.
right? It's changing. And women are being forced to be in it
Mm-hmm.
in a way where they haven't been in it in a long time, and maybe even forever. So, with women, we have an especially tough time. The traditional woman, the traditional Christian values, let's call
Mm-hmm.
them, right? Um, in my experience, that those traditional values don't allow or align themselves with women understanding how to take care of themselves financially. That's it. But I will tell you this, every smart, and you know as well as I do, every smart insurance person out there will instruct that man, that spouse who's the moneymaker, be it male or female, I don't care, to get the book. You know the book, right? The book that has all those insurance things, the
Mm-hmm.
book that has all the people she needs to call,
Yeah.
the book that has all the stuff that he needs to be aware of,
Exactly.
all the doctors' names, all that.
Mm-hmm.
Know where the book is, have it written down there, regularly go and have the book, and teach your children that mom or dad has to have the book, right? So, to answer your question, hopefully in not too long winded away, women and men invest differently because they are people, and people have different needs. The gender is not the gender is a red herring. Don't get caught up in that,
I got you. I got you.
right?
Because in
They're
my,
people.
because I just wonder. I wish I can ask, you women out there, like if you, like just to ask them, if you can invest anywhere, where would they invest? Right? I get like life insurance for sure. Like,
Can I throw
no,
something
please,
in?
yeah, please.
So I used to work at a major financial services firm. They're not paying me now, so I'm not going to say their name. But they found that female investment clubs generally outperform their male investment clubs by 25 to 30%.
Oh,
Outperformed, right? And you got to go, why? Why would that be? It's because women invest differently than men. On those situations where the male investment clubs outperform the women investment clubs, there was one specific reason: they took more risk. But they didn't outperform them 75% of the time, only 25% of the time,
mm-hmm.
maybe 30 at the most. So you got to think about that. Do I need to take the risk, or do I need to know what's going on?
Hmm.
What that company found was that when women investment clubs came together, they did the research and they only invested in products that they knew. That new car is coming out, it's got this kind of acceleration, this kind of whatever. As a woman, I think women are going to like that. I'm going to put some money in there. That makes sense to me. As a man, I'm like, it don't go any faster. Who cares?
Freaking
Right?
guy. It doesn't matter what color it is.
Yeah, what? It's pink. Come on, right? So, but in those situations where the investment was a bit more risky, women would be like, too much risk for my blood. The men would say, go for it.
I understand. There was an article that I read that single mothers, women, have become. There's a lot more homeowners. Single mothers and women have become homeowners, which is great. But it just makes me think, like, if they're thinking about more of the future, because now she has a mortgage, you know what I mean, and then now she has her kids. I'm just very curious. I would love for those that are watching, if you're a woman, I would love to have you. I would love to ask you these questions personally because it's just my thoughts. I wonder what else they think about, right? Yeah, they have a home now, cool, a car. What else? What else would they invest on so they can be living well? I wonder.
You know, I think it depends on where they come from and who's talked to them, right? I mean, if your father went to your sister and said, and I don't know your sister's name, Angela,
Close, Angie.
Angie.
How did you know, man?
Hmm.
Hey, yo. Forget your bod.
If he said, Angie, look, you can live here for as long as you want, but you need to start planning for your future. So I tell you what I'm going to do.
Hmm.
There's a there's a there's a house over here. Down payment is X. I tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hook you up with that down payment.
Mm-hmm.
You can live over there. Your mom and I will be around if you need some help. Da 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 da. We'll help you, but we'll set you up for your future. Go for it.
That's a responsible father.
Okay.
That's a responsible father.
So maybe that's how she got it. Or she could be one of those women who's like me. She said, "I'm out.
Mm.
17? No, I got to go. Better to rule in hell than serve in heaven.
No more restraints.
None of that. And I need to get my own house because since the time I was like 6, my father was telling me, when you get your house, you can do X, Y, and Z.
Of course,
So
that
I'm
makes sense.
like, get your house, right? Get your-
That makes sense, man. Yeah, of course.
And I'm sure my sisters heard that because they went out and bought a couple houses,
Mm.
right? So let's not discount people because they have a particular gender or a way of looking at life. There's a lot of truth that people can glean from things, no matter who's saying it or where it's coming from, right? But the most important thing is get some education, and I'm going to say, if you can, do things as a family,
Which would be the best.
which would be the best.
Which would be the best. Because I'm just thinking now, like, for example, like my sister, Angie. So right now, she has her man. Her man wins, decent. Um, he's able to support her and all that. If it even comes up, like, I'm gonna ask her. I'm gonna be like, hey, do you think about, like, investing your money? I wouldn't be shocked if she's like, nah, I'm just gonna, buy whatever I need, and then he'll take care of whatever he needs to take care of.
Bad answer.
Yeah, exactly. But it might be different for somebody else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's I really need a woman in here. I need to ask you ladies, or put it in the comments. Like, I have so many questions for you ladies. Like, it's not even funny because I just wonder what your mindset is. Like, are you thinking more like about your children? And if you think about your children, what do you think about? Do you think about, like, what you're gonna feed them, like take them to school, or do you think about more of the long term? Are you thinking about, I'm gonna start an investment or a
Right.
savings account for them?
Right.
These are just the type of questions that I'm curious to
Yeah.
kind of hear.
Yeah.
Which goes to the investment part that you were talking about.
Hmm.
Which goes back to the investment, the
Yes.
long term investment that you were talking about,
Yes.
Jevon.
Yeah. And it's a lot. You know, I'm in this business where I talk to people about their retirement plans.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a parent and you have a spouse, fortunately, hopefully that's the way it works out. I would say if you're a parent, you probably need 2 spouses for every 1 child.
Yeah, you do, Jevon.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
you do, man.
Yeah, right? I mean, good gracious. That, you can tell I don't have children. So,
Yeah, man, it works with 2 people.
okay, there's 2 people. Okay, there's
Yeah,
2
yeah,
people.
yeah.
Okay.
There's 2.
Okay, cool.
It takes 2
cool.
to tango.
2 to tango. Okay, cool. But I think you need a couple other people once you start knocking. Once you get like 2 or 3 kids in there, you need some help. Most
Yeah.
people need some help. And I kind of forgot what I was going to say, but I just think there are a lot of, kind of like we were talking about before, a lot of things that are pulling on us.
Yeah.
Especially as parents. And you want to make sure they're good people. You want to make sure they take care of business, that they make it home at night.
Yes.
Your kids, right? You want to make sure that you get them going the right way. And I think financial education, things you're doing right now, and I applaud you so much for it.
Thank you, sir.
This is just part of the mix you got to throw in there. I mean, we say that raising kids is tougher than it used to be, and it is. It is. It's dramatically tougher because we can't just say, you know what, go. We can't just say, just join the army. We can't just say, wait till you get married. We can't do that.
It's different.
It's different.
I can tell you as a parent, Jevon, what I hope for my daughter. What when I have my daughter, so just for context, man, I only see my daughter 6 times a month, right? So I have her every other weekend.
Mm.
Whenever I have her, I try to teach her a new word every day, especially in finance.
Mm.
Like what is equity? What happens when you buy a house? What is a credit card? How does it work? An authorized user. I try to mention those to her and how money works and how the world works in general. Like I could be that dad to just be like, here's the iPad, bam. Like
Mm.
I could be that, but I don't.
Mm-mm.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I try to teach my kid as much as I can, like why I do what I do. Whenever I go to work, she'll tell me, Dad, how come you have to go to work? And it's like, baby, like, you see the clothes on your back, the bed that you're in? Dad needs to work
Mm-hmm.
so we can have this stuff.
Yeah.
And then now she understands. All she knows right now is like, Dad needs to work so we can go out and
Sure.
have fun. Yeah,
But how old is she?
she's 10.
Well, okay.
She's 10.
But
But
she knows.
no, yeah, she knows. But it starts with me. It starts with the parent. Like we have to teach our kids that. Like again, I could not tell her anything and then just kind of go through life and whatever. But no, like I want her to be educated. I always tell her, I'm like, hey, I need you to be this. It's gonna sound whatever. I'm like, I need you to be the best in class. You need to be number one. You need to be smarter than your
Yeah.
than your peers.
Yep.
She asked me why. I'm like, 'cause it's gonna pay off in the long run, baby. Trust me. You know, It- all parents wants the best for their kids. I would say, 'cause my dad would tell me the same thing. There's one thing, Javon, that I don't know if your dad told you this, but when my dad told me this, like I didn't understand. He would be like, "All I want you to do is be better than me,"
Hmm.
and it's like the way I ingested it was, "Bro, how do you want me to be better than you? Like you're my dad. Like you freaking work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. Like you're taking care of my siblings. You have a roof over my head. You give me clothes. You give me food. Like,
Yeah.
and you want me to be better than you?
Yeah.
Like I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
But now that I have my kid, I see now what my dad meant.
Mm.
He came here so I can have a good life and be educated, know the system, know the opportunities that I have here. That's what he meant about being better. Do the things that I couldn't do
Right.
with your kid in your
Right.
family. And I'm like, damn, mind blown.
Mm. That is incredible. You know, so many of us have so many great shoulders to stand on, and honoring those folks is it's part of our job as progeny. It, that is the deal, and you need to teach your kids that. Right?
Yes.
That is the deal. And I think you're doing a great job just explaining to your daughter that you have work to do. But there's a couple of other examples out there you might not have thought of.
Oh, please.
So you've heard of Take Your Child to Work Day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So many of us can do that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Great idea. Why?
Yes.
You see mommy doing this, you
Exactly.
see daddy doing that. That's what work is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're a bricklayer, I'm not expecting you to bring your 7-year-old out there.
No,
start
first of all,
laying some
hazardous.
brick, right?
Yeah.
But you need to find a way to communicate that this is what you do.
Yeah.
This is work. This is how it is, right? Elon Musk. I saw Elon cruise through a hallway someplace with Vivek Ramaswamy and a couple other high people,
Yeah.
kid on his shoulders. He's teaching that kid there's people around
Powerful people.
that are powerful
Mhm.
that you need to get to know.
Yes.
Right?
Mhm.
Was he thinking that kid's gonna take notes and that no, he's just a little boy.
Exactly.
But eventually
He's
he's
gonna
going to remember,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So where things are appropriate, I remember my father used to take me to work with him.
Mm.
And he would just take me to work, I think, because he wanted to spend time with me. But he was actually teaching me, you got to work. And it ain't going to be fun all the time,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
You got to
exactly.
work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in a lot of ways, I grew up realizing I'm going to work. I'm always going to work. I wish he'd have taken me to the bank
Mm.
and filled out a check, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wish he could have taken me to wherever. I'd say that as hindsight. My dad did a great job in a lot of ways. There's, I have nothing but
Shout out to
love.
you, pops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing but love for James Thomas. Nothing but love and respect. Um, and there is no but. I would just say, and we have examples out there of how fathers, especially fathers, that get into their kids' lives. And so God bless you for getting into your daughter's life and letting her know, Daddy got to work, and work is X, and we do work so that you can get the things that you want. That is a wonderful lesson. And now that you know me, you can tell her about qualified plans.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and meet Jevon, and we're gonna talk about this. Freaking Jevon, man. And then, so this is the last question that I have for you, Jevon, and I love asking this question, man, because I think it's very important, man. Like, what is a message that you live by and you can give the people? I know,
I think about that from time to time because it changes because I
of
get
course.
older.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, um, I can't remember the name of the poet. He has a pretty special poem out there. And the end of it, I want to say the last line is, we're all just here walking each other home.
Mm.
And so
Damn, I
I'm
love that.
trying to remember that, right? This person they're upset, they're having this, they don't understand, they're getting all up in my face, da 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 da. Another one of those technical terms. But just trying to remember, we're all just here walking each other home, you know. So if there's someone I can uplift, if there's something I can give, if there's something I can do, then I have the opportunity
Yeah,
to do that, right? That's what I'm working with now.
I love that, man. And then, Jevon, where can the people find you?
You can find me on my phone number, 949-545-1358.
Perfect.
You can find me at Jevon at btagroup.net. You can find me at Jevon Thomas at weg1.com. Uh,
Everything will be in the descriptions. I've been telling Jevon he needs an Instagram and a TikTok. You do, man. I think it's time.
you're you're right. If
Yeah,
I knew how to
it's
spell them, if I could spell them,
not. And the only reason I say that, man, because think about it. This is just the way. Let's say you do a post of you just met conversation that we had today. It's gonna hit somebody. They're gonna want more information. They can. You can tell them, hey, hit me up on TikTok or the phone number. Then you have it. I think it's just more reach, man. And the only reason, and another reason I say that is because this is important. This is important stuff, man. You have the knowledge, man, to and the plan. Obviously, you got to tailor it to every individual for sure. But you have it. You have it up here. You just need to let it out to the world now. I think.
well, thank you. I really, really, really do appreciate that. And I certainly appreciate you giving me this opportunity because there's a bunch of folks here that I haven't been able to meet, right? I truly believe a rising tide raises all boats. So the more people we get this knowledge to, the more people that we raise their understanding, the better off we are as a nation, as a world. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Of course, man. And again, guys, the reason I have this platform is to bring people like Javon, man, people with value that you're gonna need. This is stuff that you're gonna need for your family, for yourself, for your future. Like, this is all good stuff, guys. I want to thank you guys again for joining us in this episode. You got Javon. His information is gonna be down in the description below. Go ahead and follow me, Next Level OC. I'll go ahead and I'll put the Instagram, all that down below as well. Thank you guys for this. If you guys want to be part of the podcast, go ahead and DM me in Next Level OC or go ahead and DM me in the Under Business Mindset. I'll make sure I get back to you. Would love to have you on. And it doesn't matter what field you guys are in. I would love to have you. Let's go ahead and talk about that. And then we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace. Much love, man. Much
Always,
love.
man.